would like to introduce me a little to the participants?
So I already did. I give a brief
Okay.
about yourself. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So
I think you being the CEO and the president of SBI Foundation, that's a
yeah,
very big introduction
yeah,
that
yeah.
was required.
Before being president and CEO of SBI Foundation, I was DGM and head CSR for SBI for some time. Then SBI was setting up SBI Foundation. Once SBI Foundation was set up, then I moved to SBI Foundation as president and COO. So it was we were handling both SBI CSR and SBI Foundation also. So I was into both the things. Both the things were no, you select a project, select a partner, and then release the fund, and then monitor, and then uh, call back the progress and all that. Okay. So let me start the topic. This is the, I think, accessibility of CSR funds is the much awaited or a very, very crucial topic for these NGOs, because ultimately, at the end of the day, uh, funds are more important. Unless you have funds, you cannot do anything. Right? A lot of NGOs, people have started with a lot of passion to do something for the society, but they cannot do on their own. They have to call for funds. They have to go for corporates or individual funding so that they can undertake whatever they are trying to do. So let us start with the history of CSR in India. Right? Generally, CSR in India, Indian system, ethos itself has a CSR inbuilt into this. Because see, what was happening in ancient times is that all the people who are wealthy, they give money, right? They don't go and help people. They give money to the temples. They give money to the religious organizations. In turn, these temples and religious organizations undertake these activities. So that was the general thing happening. See, during the British rule or pre-independence and post-independence, most of the CSR activities were undertaken by the religious institutions mostly, like missionaries. Mostly they were getting a lot of foreign funding. So all the missionaries were located where the British colonies were located. So they were getting funds and they were undertaking a lot of CSR activities in the form of, say, establishment of educational institutions, right? And if you ask any old timer, no, maybe people who are in 70s and 80s of age these days, they are highly educated. They would have definitely studied in a missionary school also, or missionary college. So these missionaries were establishing education institutions, and they were also establishing hospitals. So these are some of the very important things which they want to reach out to the society, so that their ultimate aim of promoting the religion can happen, right? So these missionaries or these religious institutions, they were receiving a lot of foreign funding. So they were totally dependent. And thereafter, what happened? No, Indian corporates also started thriving, like Tatas and others. So these Parsis, no, the Tatas, Parsi community, no, they are, or the Jain community, who are basically the business people, are Sindhis. Their ethos also, no, they have to help people. So that is there. So they were trying to do some kind of a CSR. Part of their profit, they were trying to give back to the society. So what they were doing is, that's why today you see a lot of NGOs are concentrated in Mumbai. Business center was the Mumbai, commercial capital was Mumbai, and a lot of Gujaratis and these Parsis, Jains, Sindhis, they were having corporates here. So they tried to do CSR. After some time, they thought they should have their own separate body, so they started establishing a trust. Trust. Uh, so that's why you find thousands of trusts established in Mumbai. That's why the legal formalities for trust are very stringent in Mumbai. The Bombay Trust Act, it is somewhere in 18th century, I think. 19th century, the act is passed. Still it is in vogue. If you go to Charity Commission in Mumbai, they are busiest people. Like if you go to Karnataka, their Charity Commissioner, that establishment is not there, that Trust Act is not there, so only the central government's act only will apply there. So a lot of people started their trust and NGOs in Bangalore area these days instead of Mumbai, because the legal formalities are less. So that's how the CSR funding has been started. Basically, people were giving donations to religious institutions, temples. But after some time, then the government thought that the CSR is not happening to the required extent. The corporates are getting a lot of profits, but they are not really giving back to the society, except very few corporates, right? So they thought they should be mandated. So there was a lot of debate for 2-3 years about mandatory CSR, whether they should mandate, whether they should not, and all that. So somehow after around 2012-13, there were a lot of discussions, a lot of debates were happening, whether they should monitor, they should mandate, and what percentage they should mandate. Some school of thought was also telling that you are already taxing the corporates at 30%. So you charge 30%, you charge 32%, and you take care. Why corporate will enter into this field? But since government cannot do anything, cannot do everything, right? If you expect everything to be done by the government, then nothing will happen. It's already proved by the time that the NGOs are doing a great job, better job than the government. If the same amount is given through government departments and spent, or same amount is given to an NGO, NGO is able to show better results. So people thought, yes, they should be channelizing this particular way also. So they have made CSR mandatory, and the Companies Act amendment came into being from 1st April 2014, I think, to this 2013 amendment. So what are the new regulations? New regulations mandated every corporate which has 1,000 crores turnover, or 500 crores net worth, or 5 crores net profit, they have to mandatorily spend 2% of their net profit, which is average last 3 financial years net profit. 2% of that they have to spend in the next financial year. This was the mandate. After 2014, slowly people started waking up. These corporates who were not really spending anything on CSR started waking up. And although this is mandated by the Companies Act, but what was happening is there was no penal provisions. If you don't spend, what if? Nothing will happen. All that Companies Act mentioned was that you have to explain in your annual report why you could not spend. If there is a shortfall, why there is a shortfall. If you could not spend, why you could not spend. You should be able to explain that in your annual report. Even that people are not doing. Somebody has a 10 crore profit, so he is supposed to spend 2% of which he has spent 0. The company has spent 0, but they didn't even explain in their annual report. They simply ignored that. It went on for next 2-3 years. Slowly people started waking up, and then started giving something. Okay, so corporates thought, yes, now this is the time to spend. It's mandated, and we have to spend 2% of our amount. And so CSR was never part of their ethos. They were not having any people to take care of CSR. So it was tagged to HR. Even now, so many companies having 100 crore profit also, they don't have a CSR department separate. Their HR fellow will also take care of CSR. So what will happen is his main focus will be HR. His part focus will be CSR. There also things are not moving properly. And some companies who have a lot of public relation portfolio, they have to go for a image building, public relations department is there. Then they separated this CSR function from HR. They started tagging it to the PR, public relations plus CSR. So they thought CSR is just an image building exercise, nothing more. So you spend something, you have some photo album, right, to show that you are doing something, green, giving something. That's it. That's not CSR the government expected, right? You have to bring in some change in the society, right? Where you are functioning, the CSR law says you have to implement projects where you have presence, so that you will be recognized in the community around. You will be working for the community in a better way. So as a social responsibility, even now, so many companies have their PR and CSR together under one controller. They may have one officer for CSR, another few officer for PR, but both are reporting to one fellow only. Even now that is happening. And if you see, in India, after independence, a lot of public sector units have been started, right? So these public sector units have a lot of funds for CSR because they earn a lot of profits, right? Not all public sector units are making losses. So many public sector are making profits. Generally, in the newspapers and discussion, we think a public sector means a failure. Public sector means they are not up to the mark. And but today, even today, in the top 5, 3 are public sector. Top 5 companies who spend on CSR maximum amount, 3 are public sector. So the public sector CSR, obviously public sector under a government control. How the public sector CSR functions? They give it some amount to a particular NGO for a particular project. How do you see the impact? Whether this amount has been spent properly? How do they monitor? How do you expect them to put up to their bosses and ultimately the government? I have spent this many lakhs, this many crores on CSR, and this is the impact. Very difficult for them, because in public sector, what is the most fearful thing for every officer is accountability, right? Accountability is the biggest thing today. Accountability, how do you escape accountability? Is to see that whatever amount you give, there should be some visibility. You should be able to show to the people, this is the amount I have given, this is what is visible. Otherwise, in CSR, you do some women empowerment program. Can you show it to somebody that this woman is empowered? It's all perception again. If I feel that there is something happened, something happened. If I feel that there is nothing happened, nothing happened. You cannot really show. There will not be a visible thing. So what happened now? These public sector companies started looking for CSR project where they will be able to show visible impact. Now tell me, what is visible impact? How do you really show visible impact? Is to create an asset which is visible, right? You build a school building, what will happen? The school building will be visible. You can show that, okay, I have now built 5 schools, or I have given some asset to a particular community which is visible. I have given one ambulance to an NGO, visible. I can show receipts also to take care of my accountability. So I have given an ambulance, purchased an ambulance. I have funded these fellows, they have purchased an ambulance, and this is here. Now, purchasing an ambulance and giving it to NGO is not the end. That ambulance has to be utilized. Then only that purpose will be served. Now you have not given for recurring expenditure. You have only created an asset. Now NGO has to run the ambulance. So to run, they require money. They are unable to get money. So they are unable to run the ambulance. The asset created is lying like that. Okay. So in the Companies Act, when they made it mandatory in the Companies Act 2013 amendment, they have mentioned that the CSR should be on project mode. That is also mentioned in the CSR Act. But even now, these public sector companies slowly, they are shifting to project-based CSR, but mostly even today, they do a visible impact-based CSR funding only. They would like to see something visible. So they would like to give an asset. Even SBI also, before we formed SBI Foundation, everything was like that. Almost everything was, you give an asset, right? In 1 year, I think in the year 2011 or 12, SBI has mandated all its branches. Then we had around 7,000, 8,000 branches. Each branch should donate 5 fans, at least 5 ceiling fans to school, right? A school run by government or a school run by charitable institutions. Now what will happen? We have donated lakhs of fans, right? And then you donate water filters to schools. When every school was given a water filter. Now the fan is given, fan is fitted, fan is there, but there will be recurring expenditure, right? Good people, the people studying, the students studying will have good air, okay, and they will be able to have proper facilities. Fan is there, then there is a good air, and they need not sweat it out, okay. But now who will pay the electricity bill? The school does not have funds to pay the electricity bill. And who will monitor that, whether the fan is there or taken away by somebody? There is nobody involved, no NGO involved. Direct. This XYZ branch will go and find a school, they will give 5 fans, get it fitted, forget. So this way, the CSR funding was happening through public sector banks, public sector units. So they were trying to do such a thing, asset-based CSR. So what is happening is, in this asset-based, lot of thing is not there for NGO to do anything, right? Except that if public sector unit or some corporate is looking to give something, right? They want to get an income tax exemption, where they will look for NGO having ATG, okay, so that they will get 50%, or under the, what is it, under some other section, in some initiatives they get 100%, okay. So as a corporate, I look to give to somebody who has this income tax exemption, so I get it, and I decide what to be given. I should be satisfied that this money will be utilized. So I have to be sure. So I want to see an asset. So I would like to give only asset-based CSR. That way, there is no impact. There is no clear-cut change in the society is not happening. The money is not impact-based. Money is only satisfaction-based, my perception-based. So that was happening. Even now, it is happening. Even now, it is happening. And slowly we are moving on to project-based CSR, where these NGO come into picture to large extent. Otherwise, the NGOs were only utilized as a conduit to spend the money. NGOs rather were not doing anything cognizable. But there are NGOs, you can figure out around 100 plus NGOs there for the last 30 years, right? They were functioning, they were really making a difference to society wherever they are functioning. But they were not getting really funding from the Indian corporates. They were getting funding mostly from the foreign funders only. So most of the NGOs who have big campuses, who have big establishments these days, if you go and see an NGO, they have a big campus, 4 or 5 places, they have a big building, campus, facilities and all that. How they are built? They have not built from the funding from the Indian corporate. They have built mostly from foreign funding only. That was a major source for all those people. Okay. But slowly, what happened? No, these NGOs, apart from family trusts from Mumbai, are the passionate people who started these NGOs in various parts of the country, had access to foreign funds, and who built good, big empires, NGO empires. Other than that, slowly after 60s, these politicians also started entering into NGO business. So that's how today, where NGOs are concentrated, Mumbai, because of the corporates having their family trust and other things, and Delhi. Most of the NGOs are concentrated in Mumbai and Delhi only. Only now, last 10 years, slowly, they are spreading out to various places. Okay. Or if you see an NGO, very big NGO in a particular part other than these places, they are either started 20, 25 years back, 30 years back with a foreign support. Okay. That type of NGOs only, or they are started only in the last 10 years. That kind of NGOs only you will find today. Who started these NGOs generally in those days were either a lot of passion. Passionate person is there, he is totally mad. People are telling this fellow is mad. He started doing something for the society out of whatever he has, and then he has somehow convinced the foreign funders or somebody who has a lot of money and philanthropy, he wants to give something, those people have assisted. So they have started. But now NGOs are started anyway, right? It's not based on the passion. It's not based on, it has become a profession. From passion, the NGO has become a profession now. And the NGO sector is having highly paid jobs these days. Compared to corporate jobs, less risk, less work, and very good pay. If you go and see the devnetjobs.com, even today in COVID times, you find hundreds of job opportunities. All those NGO friends, don't worry if your NGO is not doing good, you will have a lot of opportunities. And it is going to grow. It is not going to go down. Why? Because again, the Companies Act has become made stringent, right? Going further in next 10 years, it will be further tightened. Or maybe it will be totally opened. You don't know. Depends upon how the government looks at it. But mostly, there will be a lot of opportunities in the NGO sector or the social sector rather. We call today NGO, social sector, development sector. These are the passion, these are the new terms people are coining these days, these professional, so-called professional development professionals. Okay. So after corporate started their CSR, they wanted to shift to project-based CSR, and they have found that I can start my own NGO, my own foundation. Almost all big corporates, they have their own CSR foundation. They have established under Section 8 company, or they are a trust or society. An NGO can be a trust, NGO can be a society, NGO can be a Section 8 company under Companies Act. So all the three are considered eligible for receiving CSR funds. So depending upon their perception, some companies have started their own Section 8 company, some companies have started a trust, okay, and they have their own CSR foundation. Just started a CSR foundation you cannot expect them to do every CSR activity across the places on their own. They have to partner with the local NGO, they have to partner with the local fellow who have local knowledge, who have local access. So still there is a lot of lot of money flows through corporate to CSR foundation, and CSR foundation to again NGO, and even NGOs also 2-3 layers are coming up these days. Main NGO, state level NGO, and district level NGO, local level NGO. That fellow funds this fellow, this fellow funds this fellow. Ultimately, on the ground, somebody is implementing it. So what is happening is the CSR is having so many layers now formed. Every layer has administrative expenses. The company, their CSR department has to be there. Then the CSR foundation, then the CSR establishment, then they have to handle this money. They have to select the partners. So then the partner NGO, these partner NGO also maybe these people want to do all over India. They want to do in Assam, they want to do in Andhra Pradesh, they want to do in Uttarakhand, they want to do in Bihar. So they have a national level NGO, but national level NGO is unable to handle across geographies. So they will select a local partner in Assam, they will select a local partner in Bihar. What is happening is number of NGOs, number of layers have increased. So what is happening? The amount flows once it comes to the end part, so it is getting diluted. That's how recently there was another amendment was noted that only if this NGO is a Section 8 company, it should receive. But that was not implemented. There was a lot of debate and they put it on hold. And slowly these companies, instead of going for an asset-based CSR, they are shifting to project-based CSR. Because if you want to create a long-lasting effect, sustainable effect, the sustainable change, if you want to bring in, it should be a program, project. Otherwise, if you are creating an asset and giving, then it will be lying like that. You built a water, what do you call, water tank and given a protected water supply to the village, but it has to run. Who will run? For that also you have to take care. You have to travel with the community. You have to invest maybe over a period, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and slowly hand it over to the community. So you need to travel with your initiative, your project for a little longer time. Otherwise, it will not be. It will be one-time affair and it will die. So many initiatives, especially the public sector units have taken. Public sector companies have initiated, have done, died like this. They have done something. After that, nothing happened. So you see a school building, okay, it is not properly utilized. People have built toilets, then there is nobody to clean the toilet, no water facility, then toilet waste. So now slowly companies are moving to project-based CSR. So they want to have comfort, they have their own CSR foundations. Now who is eligible to receive these CSR funds? Now how much funds you have in India today to be spent by companies under CSR? This 2% which you are talking about. How much? Anybody can tell me what is the total amount available for NGOs, available for development sector as CSR? How much? 5,000 crores? 10,000 crores? It is going to be more than 20,000 crores today. That is the amount people have to spend, the companies have to spend on CSR. Okay. Around 3 years back, amount spent was around 10,000 crores plus, as per the reports. Now it should be definitely around 20,000 crores, especially after the recent last year's amendments to Companies Act, which I'll talk about little later. Now let us understand who is eligible to receive. Just because you are a trust or NGO, trust or society or a Section 8 company, are you eligible to receive, or is there any criteria? The criteria is basically the Companies Act 2013, which came into effect in 2014, says you should have a 3-year track record. 3-year track record, how do you define? What is track record? There is no clear-cut interpretation in the Companies Act. They only say you, NGO, either a society or a trust or a Section 8 company, should have a 3-year track record. Now, what is the track record is left for interpretation of the corporate. The safe side interpretation is you should have been established 3 years back. One, track record means you have established, means today you are trying to fund a NGO, which should be either trust or society or a Section 8 company, which should have been established prior to 2017. As simple as that. So if you are there since last 3 years, you have a track record. But not only that, my interpretation will be you should be doing something. Track record means what? You should have undertaken some initiatives for the society. What initiatives? The Companies Act enlists so many things, education, healthcare, poverty elevation, women empowerment, gender equality. You can discuss about sustainable development goals. You can discuss about these, whatever is mandated, the Schedule 7 of Companies Act. So many initiatives. Almost everything which you are trying to do good to society will fit into one of those, right? And most of the money goes to education and healthcare. And nowadays, in the last 2-3 years, a lot of people are trying to do something for the environment. Only last 3 years. So when I was in SBI Foundation, we were trying to do something related to a project related to environment protection. So we were it was very difficult to find a good NGO doing a good project. Absolutely. Except tree plantation, nothing was there. People are only trying to do tree plantation. You, one tree this much, so you plant 10,000 trees, I will take this much, I will plant, I will protect, that's all. That was the only kind of a project we were getting. Nowadays, a lot of recycling plant, recycling, right, bottle recycling machines and all that, new innovative projects have come up. So you are trying to do something good for the society, that will be CSR, including incubation centers. Social enterprise, these people these days they are calling, that is also categorized as CSR. But that subject to certain conditions laid down in the Companies Act. Now, when the corporates choose a implementing partner or an NGO, they look for 3 years track record because it is mandated in the Companies Act. You have established yesterday or you have established last year only, you want to get funds from a corporate who are strictly following the Companies Act, they will not give you. They will say, brother, you please have 3 year track record, then only you come to me. I cannot give. So all my friends, NGO friends, maybe you have started your NGO with a lot of passion. For 3 years, you have to somehow run and build a track record with the individual funding, with the funding of non-corporates, philanthropies like that. Do something, build credibility, track record, and then approach. Then you will have some history also to show that this is what I have done. You come and see there is an impact. 3 years, any initiatives to have a lasting impact, at least 3 years you should be able to travel with the community, travel with the project, spend in that project. It cannot be a one-time affair. You give some science lab to a school, that's not the end of it. You have to monitor whether it is being utilized, whether this particular teacher is really showing this, doing experiments and showing it to students, whether it is making an impact in the students, whether their score in the science has gone up or not. You have to make an impact assessment, so you have to travel. So the companies look for NGOs with 3 year track record. Suppose you are an NGO with more than 3 years track record, you have done good projects, right? And now you want to approach corporates, you want to scale up your projects, you want to do that. Now you should know how these corporates go about CSR spending. There are 2 types of spending, 2 types of choosing a partner, NGO, reactive and proactive. Reactive is you go on bombarding them with email, letter, or approach personally. Then they react, okay, this fellow is doing something good, I will try to fund you. Okay, I am satisfied. Reactive. It's not that they are trying to do something and they have looked for an implementing partner and they have found you. No, it's a reactive. Most of today CSR funding happens this way. Very, very few organizations like HCL and other very few organizations, they have their own way of funding. They go proactive. They go and conduct a symposium in every place. They invite NGOs and say, this is what we want to do. This is our thematic area. If you are doing something, if you are able to do something, then this is what is our project proposal format. Please submit. Very, very transparent mechanism. And they have a committee, then they receive hundreds of proposals, they vet it, verify, choose the best. They have say 25 crores, 30 crores, 40 crores amount to be spent. Then they will also decide in this geography I will spend this much, this geography, this particular education I want to spend this much, healthcare I will spend this much, environment I will spend this much, women empowerment. They have already allocated particular budget. That's a very proactive way of spending. Slowly, slowly these corporates are moving towards that. But even now, let me say 80 to 85% of corporates are only reactive. Simple. They are approached by so many people. Out of whatever they receive, they find whichever is a good. They have this much budget, so they would like to give it to you. Maybe your project, you have gone to corporate with a project of 1 crore, but they say, no, I cannot give you 1 crore, I can give you only 10 lakhs. Now what will you do? Whether you say, no, I want 1 crore or nothing. We will not say that, definitely not. Every NGO says, yes sir, 10 lakhs also okay. What you will do with the 10 lakhs when you have prepared a project for 1 crore? If 1 crore is being implemented over a district, then you may scale down that to a particular 5 villages, right? So if it can be scaled down properly, logically, then you should take up that project. But some kind of intervention, no, it requires to be implemented, right, in a particular scale. Otherwise, it will not be successful. You will not be able to employ people. Today, you have budgeted a project manager, I will pay him 40,000 rupees per month. Then, since the project sanction is only for 1/4 of the amount, you cannot say, I will pay you 10,000. Nobody will work for you because there are a lot of opportunities, people will go. So, it is again a catch-22 situation. When you approach a corporate with a project, either you should be able to scale it up or you should be able to scale it down. You should have that model in your mind. Then you will be able to, suppose a corporate says, no, not 1 crore, 10 lakhs. Then you should be able to say, okay, instead of 100 villages, I will implement in 10 villages. Okay, now you choose. This is how your project proposal should be, scalable. Our corporate says, no, I have 5 crores. So you should be able to scale it up. And the question comes is whether you can really scale it up, whether you can implement it in such a big scale. Some projects, no, you have to do a pilot. Based on experience, you have to learn and then implement in a bigger scale. Then you should be able to convince your corporate partner that no, I cannot implement across 100 villages now. I will implement in 10 or 20. Then based on the experience, we will tweak the model and then we will implement. That's a logical way of spending, and even the corporate also will support that. This year they may give you something, next year they will give something. So you can go on scaling up. The proactive spending, these days slowly people are trying to build proactive spending. So they want to implement a particular project in a particular geography. So they will go and scout who are the NGOs with a good track record working in this particular geography, who will be able to partner with me. And the question comes, either reactive or proactive. The question comes next is, before you start partnering with an NGO, the corporate looks for due diligence. What kind of policies this NGO has. From SBI Foundation, we had our due diligence is that not only you have a track record for 3 years and all that, we were looking into the NGO's HR policy also. When I asked some NGOs, big NGOs, do you have your personal policy, HR policy? They don't have any policy. When you don't have a policy, today somebody is there at the helm of affairs, he is doing good job, project will be successful. Today, tomorrow, this fellow jumps to some other, because this is not a government job, no? Tomorrow, good offer is there, or he is not satisfied with the boss, he will leave and he will go. He will leave and he will go. So it will be very difficult. So I want to see what is the continuity is there in HR policy. How do you take care of your personals? What are the terms and conditions of your employment? Okay. So all these we were doing as part of our due diligence. Once these NGO passes through our due diligence exercise, like if you have seen some of the corporates, this proposal format itself, it has inbuilt due diligence. Like HCL Foundation, just recently, I think only last 10 days back only they have closed their doors. So they were proactive, going everywhere and asking for proposals. Their proposal is very, very difficult to fill in. So once you have filled in the proposal format of HCL Foundation, you will be able to fill in properly any corporate project proposal form. If you have seen the Tata Trust proposal format, very, very stringent. Very, very stringent. They start from problem statement. Now, so many NGOs, if I ask, oh, you have this project, what is the problem statement? Blank face. No. What is the problem you are trying to address? You should be able to answer that on paper properly. That's how today a lot of intermediaries are coming into place. Can somebody mute the, yeah. So it has become very difficult for the NGOs, especially the small NGOs, even to prepare a proposal. So you have to take assistance of professionals. So that's how today the lot of implementing for preparation of project proposals, for preparation of like you say project proposal, or facilitating grants. A lot of intermediaries are there in the market today, like Gobi's Lab, right? Saksham. What they are trying to do, they are trying to empower NGOs. How? You cannot go on spoon feeding every day. You have some project, so I will prepare a project proposal. Now, not only project proposal, after project proposal is prepared, submitted, then there is a grant received. Now you have to send a progress report, monitoring reports, right? And you should satisfy the corporate that you are spending the money right way. You have to showcase what is the progress in the project, what is as per your PERT chart. Some corporates ask the PERT chart, right? Clearly defining that in these 3 months what you will do, 4th, 5th, 6th month what you will do, 6, 7, 8 months what you will do. So you should be able to divide your activities into various time schedules. All that today, it is, unless you are a very good professional, you will not be able to do as from NGO. Unless you have employed very good professionals, which is very difficult for small NGOs. So you have intermediaries like NGO Box, CSR Box, ResponseNet, Dasra, established place are there, Give India, United Way, Help Your NGO. Now I hear Gobi's Lab. Similarly, so many agencies are coming. There are a lot of individuals also who are there in this business. They are not an organization as such individual, but he is a professional. He will help you out, preparing your project proposal, preparing your end-to-end for a project. He will travel with your project, monitoring reports, quarterly reports, okay. And some innovative agencies are also there, like Goodera. They have a app-based monitoring system. I don't know how Gobi's Lab is going about. App-based monitoring system is today's buzzword, because especially for the public sector, visibility. I want to see visible impact. Now I have given 1 crore to somebody in Assam. What is the progress? I don't know. Suddenly my superior asks me, what happened? I'm going there. I want to see. Or what is the progress? I have to show in my board meeting. What I will show? If I have a app-based monitoring system, which is geotagged, so that particular thing is happening there, and these are some photographs, evidence created on that particular day. In this geography, I am able to prove, yes, this has happened really on that particular day, on that particular geography, and these are the beneficiaries. There was a meeting held. This particular asset was distributed. There was a meeting of women happened. All that I will be able to. Otherwise, I will receive only one photograph, a photo album, but I will not be satisfied. So some organizations like Goodera, they are able to do this kind of helping you to do monitoring. So my advice to NGOs, unless you are a big organization who can employ professionals, you should be today's world, you should be able to take help of your intermediaries, or go for crowdfunding. Crowdfunding also, very small amounts can be raised, like Keto, individual fundraising mostly. Those NGOs who have started recently, who do not have 3-year track record, my advice is, whenever you are having good thing, you try to raise through online crowdfunding platforms. Or there is a platform called Donate Cart. I don't know whether you have heard. Donate Cart. Small proposals. Individuals also can put, right? One school in one corner of the country, they want to give notebooks to the children. The teacher wants to give, government is not supplying, he doesn't know what to do. He wants to teach. So he has put his proposal. There are 100 students in my school. I will have to give 5 notebooks to each student. So 500 notebooks, this is the cost. Please fund. He has sent a proposal to Donate Cart. Donate Cart has put it on their platform. Some individual has given, okay, 10,000 rupees I am giving. Now Donate Cart, what they will do? They will take this money, buy these 500 notebooks and see that they are delivered, and they'll give a photograph of this proof. So such things are also happening. Innovative things, innovative intermediaries, creative solutions they are bringing about. So such people utilize, and then please try to have access to the CSR funds. Now finally, I think it's time. Can I go a little another 10 minutes?
Yes, sir, that's fine. You can continue.
Okay. Because it's already, since we started around 4:15.
No problem, sir.
Try to take another 10-15 minutes.
Sure.
So whenever you approach a corporate, you think you have prepared you have some good initiative. It's not in the proposal format they expect, but you are presenting your project. You are presenting your NGO. You are presenting your passion that I want to do this much, this particular solution in this particular area. Then you may think it is the ultimate you have done. You show all the passion, you have everything properly worked out. But when you go to a corporate in CSR department or a CSR foundation, their daily job is this: interacting with the NGOs, receiving projects, interacting with the NGO people, trying to find which is good, which is bad, and how do you make an impression on that fellow. It's like an interview. You have gone for job interview, right? Somebody else got the job, you did not get the job, but you are all more capable than that fellow. It depends. That fellow was able to make a good impression. You are not able to make that particular point of time. So it happens like that. So it is the perception of the fellow who is deciding matters most, right? Doesn't mean that since that fellow has not funded you and funded somebody else, does not mean that that fellow has something links with the fellow corrupt or all such. People start talking. It's not that like that. People are really looking in the corporate world. People are really looking for some innovative, creative project proposals. Something unique, something very, very creative. But at the same time, you should be able to satisfy that this new innovative approach will be successful. I will be able to take up this particular project, implement this and show the results, right? Today in COVID situation, what is happening? No, lot of corporates have dried up their funds. They have all given to PM CARES straight away, because it was, most of the corporates have been asked to give to PM CARES. And it is easy also now in these COVID times, where you will interact with the NGO, where you will select a project, where you will implement, where you will go and supervise and all that. Easiest way is what? Give it to PM CARES. Now this recent amendment, last year amendment, also made people to give it to PM CARES. They don't want to keep unspent amount at the end of the financial year. Whatever they made profit in the year 2020, March 2020, whatever they declared in the month of April, May, so they have to spend before March. How do they spend? These days people are unable to move out, right? You are ready to take up the project, implement it, but they are unable to really talk to you. They are unable to really interact with you person. And they want to come and see your place. They are not able to come. Nobody is willing to travel. No communication is there. Very difficult. So simple is give it to PM CARES. So people have given. One of my friends was telling that some 20,000-30,000 crores have been given to PM CARES this year. Now what will happen? Because of the downturn in this year's business, I don't know what will be the profits this financial year. The amount of money to be spent under CSR will also be very less. Now talking about the last year's amendments, they tried to bring in, which they have put on hold, is that the NGO or the implementing partner should be a Section 8 company. That was mooted. Proposal was mooted. So all the trust societies, whoever NGOs are working for the last few years, how do you receive? So they have put it on hold. But what they have not put it on hold is the amendments to corporate social responsibility, the Companies Act amendment, which was passed by the Parliament in July 2009, is that if you have not spent the specified amount, which you are supposed to spend the 2%, you have to, by the end of the financial year, if you are unable to spend that amount, suppose you are supposed to spend 100 crores, right? You could spend only 80 crores. The 20 crores, you have to give it to a specified fund of the government. Within 6 months of the close of that financial year, close your books, find out what is the profit, find out what you have spent. The remaining amount you have to give it to the specified fund. Specified funds क्या है? Very simple. PM CARES, Clean Ganga Fund, Swachh Bharat Fund, PM Relief Fund. Indirectly, what is happening? The government is taking again, right? The tax which you pay, government is taking. This is also, they have given you some liberty. 2% you please spend. If you are not spent, give it like tax to me, to these listed funds. That is one regulation. Second, but the condition is, if you do not have an ongoing project, then you have to give it within 6 months of close of financial year, whatever remaining amount you unspent, you give it. If you have an ongoing project, what happens now? By the time I have taken up the project, which was supposed to be started in the month of June, because of COVID, it did not start. Now maybe it will start in October. So what will happen? The project will spill over to next financial year. I have allocated some 10 crores for this project. Now 10 crores will not be spent. Only 6 crores will be spent, 4 crores. If I give it to specified fund, then how do I run this? I cannot leave this project midway. So if you have ongoing projects, the regulation says, okay, unspent amount allocated for this project, which you could not spend, can be kept for next 3 years. Because any project, generally, every corporate takes up a project for maximum period of 3 years. Suppose you go to a corporate, say, I have a 5-year project, they say, okay, but I will take up only for 3 years. I will sanction only for 1 year. Depending upon the progress, everything, I will release for the next year. This is how the conditions they will put. So whatever is unspent amount can be kept for 3 years, and even then you are unable to spend. Suppose at the end of 3 financial years, you are unable to spend that amount, whatever amount such amount accumulated within 30 days of close of 3rd financial year, you have to give it to again one of these funds. So what government is trying to do these days is, that those corporates who are not spending cannot go like that. They want to see that if 2% has to be spent, 2% has to spend. If not this year, over a period of 3 years, you have to spend. Otherwise, give back to the government. Government has so many funds and so many funds are coming up. Every ministry is trying to float a fund so that they get the fund. Sports ministry has floated National Sports Fund. You give it to sports fund or you do a sports project. Doing a sports project is very difficult. Finding an NGO, doing this. Now you want to do a sports project, you will be able to do. Schools are closed, colleges are closed. Where do you conduct sports? You cannot do. So better you give it to. As per your CSR policy, you have to spend 10% of your fund on sports. Suppose a corporate CSR policy is like that. What they have to do, they will go and give it to National Sports Fund. So slowly, if NGOs are unable to approach, convince the corporates are not satisfied, corporates are not willing to do proper CSR, they have a way out is created these days by government. So which is very dangerous situation for NGOs, right? So it is easy, no? As a corporate, I have 100 crores to spend. I will try to spend some 10 crores here and there, right? I am very, very stingy, conservative person. I don't trust anybody, believe anybody. I don't really like to go through project proposal, discuss. Simple, I will spend like that, and remaining amount, I will simply give it to one of these government funds, legally correct. Nobody will question me, right? So that situation should not arise. If a CSR fellow in a company had a bad experience with an NGO, they have taken the money, but they have not implemented the project properly. So public sector units, no, they are subject to CAG audit, Comptroller and Auditor General. Very, very stringent audit. Very, very stringent audit. No? So facing that audit is going to be hell. So that fellow he will think if he had a bad experience, so he will not trust any NGO. He will simply, whoever is good track record, everything established, experience, he has a belief, he doesn't want to step into fund a new NGO at all. I will fund it to some of the government funds. So that situation is going to come these days, which is a very, very dangerous thing. I don't know what will be there in the future, especially next financial year. CSR fund is going to be very, very less because the business is not doing well, because of these government regulations, because of the stringent provisions. Not only that, no, they have put penalties and imprisonment also. If you are not spending and properly explaining, you can be fined from 50,000 rupees to 25 lakh. Penalty will be for that officer who is responsible. Who is responsible to spend that much? Not only this fine, imprisonment up to 3 years. So it's going to be very difficult, especially the public sector, unless they spend through their CSR foundation something, unless they are very satisfied with the track record of the NGO. Once they talk to you, they should be able to get a good impression that this fellow is honest, trustworthy, ethical. He will not misuse my money. He will not just create some photos and do something, right? So all that, the intermediaries like Gobi's lab has to create a lot of sense of trust among corporates and sense of trust among NGOs. So I think in the coming days, all these intermediaries, especially, have a very big role to play in satisfying the corporates about the ethical practices of the NGO, proper monitoring systems of the NGO, proper reporting system. Even though everything is good, but proper reporting is not there, auditor is going to point out. Every company, every corporate is subject to some audit. If not CAG audit, some audit. The auditors always will look to find out some mistakes. So all these, the CSR officers, all these are facing these problems. So NGOs, when you are accessing the funds, the 20,000 crores, maybe next year it will be 10,000 crores or so. So you should keep in mind all these. So not only your passion, you should be able to convince the corporate, create a trust. And I hope you take help of good professional intermediaries, professionals, and access CSR funds, see that my request to all the NGOs is see that most of the amount comes to NGOs, not to the government. Okay. So that's all from me. It's 5:14. I think it's 1 hour. Exactly 1 hour since I started speaking.
Yes, that's punctuality actually. You finish well on time. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Yeah. Any questions anyone
Yes,
has?
we will open it up for the questions.
Yeah.
So you can either unmute and ask, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute.
Hi, Harsh Vaidya here. I have a question.
Yes, Harsh, please go ahead. You are mute, Harsh. You're mute.
I'm sorry. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
audible.
Mr. Reddy, it's indeed a pleasure to be chatting with you right now, and what a wonderful session today. Mr. Reddy, I've been into, I am an ecopreneur, so I do a lot of tree plantations. I have a charitable trust called as the Tree Box Foundation. Now, for past 8 years, I've been doing that, and fortunately, I have been positively listed in Hindustan Unilever, HPCL, a lot of government organizations also. But like most of the NGOs would have faced a problem this year, even I got to listen to the same music that this year everything's gone to COVID. Unfortunately, rains is when the tree plantation happens the most. Now this year we couldn't do a great deal of plantations. I have associated with all the forest departments in all the metro cities, because that is where the main problem of pollution is. We have unlimited acres of land. Now my question to you is that, in spite of having man, material, land, whatever required, the right type of funding required from the CSR departments, where a company like HPCL has grown 1 lakh trees last year, suddenly that is gone. I mean, suddenly nobody wants to plant trees. Until last year, everyone was shouting about, oh, so much pollution. So my question is, we have seen a few NGOs like Goonj, for that matter, we all know of them. They've suddenly raised, to the one of those top 10 or top 5 NGOs out of nowhere. Is this where professional support is required, or how does one happen to reach out to the top list of top 5 NGOs doing the job? So my question is, can we professionally employ ex CEOs of CSR departments on our board of trustees and take their help to reach out to a lot of other CSR teams? How does this work? I mean, how do you catch the eye of, let's say, SBI Foundation?
See, you are there since 8 years in the field, but how
Yeah.
come I have not heard of you?
See, exactly. Sending you an email was such a bad experience, to be honest. It goes unanswered. I mean,
Yeah.
someone
No,
who currently,
see, you raised the point, sending an email, that like you, 100 people will be sending an email to me. What will happen? No, see, not that we ignore all emails. We read each and every email, go through each and every email, right? At least I used to do. Each and every email we used to distribute to people, all the project officers, and each fellow has to read everything. And, like I told, innovative, unique, creative, something, right? Good, it made a good impression. Then those things will be discussed, and then my project manager has some view. I have a different.
Someone gets in touch.
Then we discuss, debate, and then we decide. Okay, this out of these 100 emails received, and these 2 are something
important.
The percentage is like that, because every day you receive 20, 30, 40 emails. Then it becomes difficult. Over a period, every week we meet.
Right.
Every week we meet, and then, what is that you have gone through? Now the problem is, see, I have allotted 20 emails to one of the project officers. One fellow had a good amount of time. He has gone through everything and found, yes, this is a credible, this is good initiative. Another fellow was in little hurry, so he has not gone through properly. So your proposal was with that fellow, then that has gone. So it's just happened like that. You don't know, no? It's like the selection in the interview. You tried to make a good impression. The fellow was in a good mood, somehow connected, and you got it. Somebody else did not get it. So it happens. It happens. Now, this year, situation is different. Not only you, everybody is affected. Not only you're talking about one tree plantation activity affected, people are affected like anything, catastrophe. You can't think of this. In the last 100 years, this did not happen. Maybe in the next 100 years, it may not happen. You don't know. It happened, so everything is affected. There is no simple solution for this. There is no solution. Wait is the only solution. Wait. Wait for the better time. So things are looking up. Things are looking up today. See, BSC Sensex is doing good these days, right? So that means people are optimistic. Now, despite COVID going up so much, if you come to Hyderabad, everything is normal, everybody is functioning, every shop is open, every hotel is open, everything is open except whatever is not permitted, cinema halls and all those things are not open. But only thing is there is no customer. Nobody is buying, nobody is going. Only essential things are happening. So if you are ready to implement, this is a good rains are also happening. You should do plantation, tree plantation, but people maybe they have dried out their funds and given to PM cares. Or if they have to undertake a tree plantation activity, some on-ground implementation supervision is required, which they cannot do. So they don't want to take up anything risky, no? Life is at risk. The biggest risk people have to take. So simply you have to wait for the good time and hope next 6 months things will again get back to normal once the vaccine comes and all that. Let's hope sooner the better. Right. There is no simple question that if you are taking some people on board, they are not going to have magic wands and get your funds. Definitely not. Right. You should be able to get based on your initiative. Right. And your credibility, you have already experienced with HPCL and all those people. Right. When I was there with the SBI Foundation, we have done tree plantation in Assam with this NGO. What is that? I am forgetting the name. Who is also there on the internet, right? I was searching for NGOs in this environment field. Actually, there were very little, very few credible NGOs. 3-year track record I found, right? Somehow I could not find a tree box.
Ah, that's unfortunate. But even when I try sending an email to Mr. Joseph, who's currently the head of CSR, if I'm not wrong,
they are
at
not
SBI
having
Foundation.
Funds, I think. No, they are not having much funds because SBI only last financial year they made some profit. Earlier 2 years it was a very bad time. So they subsidiaries you can approach SBI subsidiaries.
Sure.
Right? Subsidiaries having funds, SBI cards, SBI general insurance. Right.
Perfect.
Those
Makes
SBI
sense.
life, they have funds. Right. They may be willing to do something.
Of course.
Right?
Great help, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we have next question? You can either raise your hand or you can unmute. Do you have any question? Yes, Mr. Harun. Please unmute and you can ask.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Harun. Please carry on.
I am able to hear you.
It's a very pleasure to listen to you, and it's a very good session. So, sir, I want to ask you that I've been doing crowdfund since last medical crowdfund since last 3 years, and most of the time I keep the campaign for 10 to 15 days. But what happened, I cannot reach to the target. So people they fund to me, but I cannot reach to the target. So how can I reach that target? How can I contact? Because right now I am not eligible for CR fund. So how can I reach to that target? Can you help for that?
So you are using through which platform you are doing crowdfunding?
I have a Pharmacists Association of India, and I'm president of that. We have been registered since 1995, but in between since last 8 years, we have been not operating it. But recently, for last year, they have selected me as a as a president, so I have started operating it, and I've started doing this medical crowdfund and all that. So since last
So
2 years,
that's what I'm asking. The crowdfunding, how you are mobilizing this, how you are doing this crowdfunding. You approach individuals, or you go through Keto or such platforms, or how?
I've started through Facebook,
Facebook. Okay.
my own business platform, and I've started from Facebook because I have a registered PI Pharmacy Association.
Hmm. So through Facebook, you reach to people.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But how do you reach to the people? You put post in your Facebook. Okay.
I post. I use
You
all
do
social.
some ads also, Facebook ads also.
Yeah.
Okay. Facebook is a good forum, but you should be also using other crowdfunding platforms, right?
Actually, other crowdfunding platform they charge 40,
Yeah,
10,
yeah,
12.
everybody will charge. No, they have to run their show, right? So because they are charging, you cannot ignore them, because even though they charge, no, they'll be able to raise, right?
Yeah.
Because your concern is to help somebody on
Yeah.
for medical treatment, right?
Yeah.
So medical treatment means it cannot wait. One. Second is you are unable to reach the target. That means
Right.
the way you are doing only through Facebook is not enough. Maybe you should also go through LinkedIn, other social platforms. Maybe
I'm using all platform.
yeah, you go to YouTube, right? Put a small video where you will mention about your details and the photographs or video, small video of the patient, their interview, their house, their how the financial position is there, all that. Today you have Instagram is there, Facebook is there.
Sir, I'm using every social media, and I'm making professional video also, story also, painful story,
Okay.
and everything.
So
Despite of
you
that,
should,
most of the time I've reached the target, but
because
sometimes
I have not come across your crowdfunding posts. So means you are not able to still reach so many people.
right.
Right? You are not able to reach so many people. You have to think of increasing the reach.
Okay.
Whatever is the social media available, you should be using it and promoting it.
Yeah.
Maybe little investment is required in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right, to promote it. Suppose you are supposed to collect 10 lakhs, right? So
Yeah.
you have to spend maybe a few thousands on advertisements so that you will be able to collect 10 lakhs. Tomorrow you have collected 10 lakhs, 50,000. 50,000 is amount spent on various advertisement or this promoting expenses. But ultimately your target is to see that somebody gets the medical treatment, right? So that is your aim. Don't think of somebody charging something. You pay charges, but to that extent you mobilize more. There are a lot of philanthropists, right? If something comes to them, no, they would like to help in small way, whatever way. Somebody may donate 500 rupees, somebody may donate 1,000, somebody may donate 10,000, right? That's what crowdfunding is.
Yeah.
So you have to think of increasing the reach. So for that you have to utilize professionals. Right.
Sir, you have named the one organization, Donate Card.
Donate Cart.
Card.
Donate Cart.
Okay.
You Google for crowdfunding platforms, then automatically so many things will come. Then you try to contact them and put it there. In addition to whatever you're doing, try to utilize these intermediaries so that your target is not to just to raise money. No, your target is to see that somebody gets life. So that's a good intention. So you should do everything possible to help people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one last question, ready, sir. Mr. Krishnaraj Iyer, you have raised your hand, so you can just unmute and you can ask.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Very excellent talk today. It was very enriching, and I would like to thank Nazim for organizing something of this kind,
Thank you.
wherein we can enhance knowledge
Thank you.
The basic reason I'm trying to get in touch now is to try and understand as to how do you really, you mentioned that you know you have to increase your target, right? So how do you identify these kind of communities or groups? Because I'm in the media, so we get to hear these kind of groups. So is there a specific process in identifying them? How did you go about it within your foundation?
What type of projects you are trying to raise funds?
So basically, financial inclusion is the main thing, and plus we are also trying to reach out in different areas.
You are not talking about crowdfunding, no?
No, no, not about crowdfunding. Let's
Ah.
say we already have funds, like we
Financial
have been able
inclusion,
to generate funds. Now we have to utilize it and to
financial
reach to the right
inclusion.
target and people who actually require it. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
do you go about it?
What do you do exactly in financial inclusion?
So our community is within Dharavi.
Hmm.
So we have a small community there,
Hmm.
and I've been volunteering with this group.
Okay. The presence is only in Dharavi.
Yeah, within Dharavi, and that is the reason we want to, I mean, there's a lot of talk about branding, I mean, if you reach out to the right kind of community, you come in the news, and then people start to recognize
Yeah, but
what kind of activity you
there
do.
is also one catch here. In Dharavi, how many NGOs are operating in Dharavi, you know?
I would say anywhere more than 400, 500.
Now Dharavi condition, is there any improvement? I see Dharavi is like Dharavi only.
Yeah, so that is the
I've
problem.
seen
So we want to come
these
out of that.
non-profit NGOs are working in Dharavi. In one street, one in another street, another street, another street, another. These days, corporates, even though Mumbai corporates, if you go to corporates based in some other part of the country, maybe they don't know what is Dharavi and all that. But even Mumbai-based corporates also, Dharavi, something has to be done. People are really taking a back seat. Means they want to step back.
No, before the
This
election,
kind
a lot
an
of political
impression,
parties were,
I don't know
coming forward.
why this kind of impression is created, because so many NGOs are living only based on Dharavi. They are existing in the name of Dharavi. So even SBI Foundation also, some lot of people approached us. We are doing this in Dharavi, we are doing that in Dharavi. Then one of our top officials said, nothing in Dharavi, forget, let us go elsewhere, right? Because nothing is really visible impact is not happening in Dharavi. It's
Exactly.
very difficult. It's not that you are not doing anything. It is very, very difficult to show visible impact in Dharavi. So many financial inclusion related NGOs are also functioning, and so many financiers are also functioning there. Daily financiers, they are thriving there, right?
So you know
Banking
it, sir.
system is not able to make inroads into Dharavi kind of helping Dharavi people. So informal type of finance or those things are only happening in Dharavi. So it is very difficult, my friend, for Dharavi mobilizing funds. Very difficult unless some CSR officer who is really passionate.
No, a lot of people showed interest, and then I took them and showed them what is exactly happening there on the
It's
ground.
not properly audible. Speak little louder.
Yeah, so I mean, there were a lot of people showing interest, even from international organizations. They approached us, and we could show what exactly we are doing on the ground, and meet the community. And they interacted and showed a lot of promise that they would really come ahead and take this up, because we needed a lot of inputs on skill building and inclusion and all that. Like, so that was the promise initially showed, but then somehow. Because of COVID and all, they might have backed out. I don't know.
Foreign agencies you are talking.
Yeah, a lot of foreign agencies.
Yeah,
they're already present. In fact, some of them.
Better approach will be to approach the foreign funding agencies, one, and the corporates who have some kind of a specific fund, specific target that they have to do financial inclusion in urban slums. There are some corporates who may have a policy that they want to work in urban slums. They want to empower urban slum population. So that kind of a corporates only. Otherwise, financial inclusion is generally we suggest is that all NBFCs, banks, and all those people you should approach. But when you say Dharavi, these people will be because most of these banks, NBFCs are based in Mumbai, so they will be hardly willing to come to Dharavi and do something. The general perception is like that in the market, right? So you have to think of some philanthropists or foreign funding agencies or new NBFCs who have made good profit and they would like to do only in financial inclusion.
So we want to, collaborate with different groups and try and understand some of the best practices they do, so that we can also skill build ourselves. So that is what that kind of collaboration is what we are looking at.
You should be able to have some project for financial inclusion with a technology solution, right? See, these people, what these people do know, the informal financiers, they give something in the morning, they collect in the evening with interest. Okay. So you should be able to do that on a technology. Otherwise, you have employed somebody, that fellow will eat away. So you should have some technology solution, right? Or you come out with a project where you will be able to collect. The small vendors are there, right? Go midday or end of the day, collect 100 rupees. There are a lot of people are doing, but they are not technology based. 100 rupees every day, 100 rupees that fellow saves. So you should have a maybe swipe card machine type small machine, wherein that fellow will punch in his thumb impression or something like that, and he will pay. He automatically his account is credited, and every day they will pay you. So they build savings based on whatever they are saving. Then you start finance with those funds only. You start financing them. You will be replacing these informal lenders who are charging high. So they charge 10% interest per day. 100 rupees means 110 rupees they take at the end of the day. So you should be able to make an inroad, employ those people with a technology solution that there will be no misuse in between. And there will be very good success for this. You need not even get funding also. Initial funding will be enough. Thereafter, it will be self-sustaining. So a lot of technology companies you can approach and try this. This will be successful.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was a great idea, sir. Yes, so I think that's it for the day. Thank you, Reddy sir, for your time. It was a lovely session. We all got a good insights on how to reach the CSR funds and what is exactly required. And thank you all the participants for joining. Thank you very much, sir, once again.
And Nazim, we'd like to connect with you as well.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Instead of making a PowerPoint presentation, all that, I just discussed it. It was like informal chat. Thank you so much, Goviz, Mr. Nazim and Yusuf. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All the best to all the participants.
Thank you very much, sir.